You're going to have to get involved. You're going to have to do some of the hard work, some of the heavy lifting. You're going to have to take some of the personal responsibility. It's about patriotism. It's about loving this country, because if we don't fight for this country, no one else is going to fight for this country. We don't need that anymore now. We need sensible, hard-working patriots who are going to dedicate their lives improving and fixing this country.
And here I am. I'm on with Nick Buckley. Nick, thank you for coming on Laments this evening.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Not a problem, Nick, not a problem. I first sort of became aware of you a few years ago when you were on Trigonometry. So for those people who follow me who maybe don't watch Trig, tell me a little tell us a little bit about yourself and how you are where you are.
Sure. First of all, can you believe that was over 5 years ago?
It's all gone very quickly,
yeah,
actually.
That would have been 5 years ago, last month, September. So that's how long things have been going on.
Flawed on it. That's mad.
Yeah. So who am I? I'm a nobody. I'm a kid off a council estate, raised by a single parent. Wasted my teens and my 20s, and then in my 30s found a career working for Manchester Council, stopping kids get involved in crime and antisocial behaviour. Then a decade later, austerity kicked in. I was made redundant. My whole team was made redundant. I took the money on the table, set up a charity called the Mancunian Way to work on the streets, again with kids, stopping them getting involved in crime. We expanded that to start working with rough sleepers in Manchester city centre. And then I became infamous 5 years ago. At the height of Black Lives Matter, I criticised Black Lives Matter at the height of it. That was enough for me to be called a Nazi, a criminal, a fascist. I was sacked from the charity I founded.
You said, just to clear that up, you set up a charity to help the disadvantaged. You criticised a political movement, and they took your charity from you and smeared you with all the negative tropes.
Yes. The people who took the charity away from me were my friends, who I pointed to the board of the charity. Wow. So they got together and sacked me over email.
Email as well?
Yeah, can't forget it was COVID at the time. There was no face-to-face meetings. I got a one-line email saying you're fired immediately. They should have known better that I wouldn't have accepted that, so I fought back with the help of the Free Speech Union and the Mail on Sunday. They were great. And within 5 weeks, I forced the whole board to resign in disgrace. We appointed a new board and they offered me my job back. So I went back to the charity for a year, but I just couldn't stay. My reputation had been damaged. People won't give us money anymore. You're run by Nick the Nazi. So I had to leave the charity anyway, which is doing amazing now, which is fantastic. And then that sort of politicized me. So since then, in 2001, I ran for Mayor of Greater Manchester, right, Reform UK, because they were brand new. I then parted company with them. I then stood as an independent, and I ran again for Mayor of Greater Manchester last year against Andy Burnham. I came third as an independent. And I'm now a member of Advanced UK. I feel they're the only real alternative we have now. They're still a couple of years away from making a big impact, but that takes time.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of writing. I write books. I write blogs. I do lots of videos every day on YouTube. And everything I do is all about politics, but it's more than that. It's about personal responsibility. It's about patriotism. It's about loving this country, because if we don't fight for this country, no one else is going to fight for this country. And if this country called England, if this dies, where do the English go? There's nowhere for us to go.
No, I get that. Okay, so that's quite a whirlwind of a journey, isn't it, really? So I'm just going to hop on the Advanced UK comment there. I interviewed Ben Habib, a couple of weeks ago. As this goes out, it'll be a couple of weeks now. Our man is very passionate. He's very direct. He's very passionate. And you know that term that people use, like 100-yard stare? He's not, like, he's 100 miles. Like, he's just got... I found when I met him in person, he had this look and he had this way about him. He's got like this laser focus and he knows what he's going to do. I think he's going to be his party, not him. Sorry. So obviously that includes yourself. It's going to be a real challenge for Reform, I think. So what is it? Because you've been part of Reform, and you ran for mayor. Why now Advance? What's the difference for people who don't maybe know, maybe not in that sphere? Why should people no longer vote Reform and vote for Advance? There you go.
Good question. It starts with this. Reform UK didn't earn any of the votes and any support they've got. They've not earned it. It's by default. They were the party. If you're a Labour supporter, Tory supporter, and you hate the Labour and Tories, you automatically now go to Reform UK. They've not earned your respect. They've not earned your vote. It's just a pure coincidence that they were the right party at the right time at the right place, who just happened to have a charismatic leader. Nigel Farage is a formidable politician.
He's a really good orator.
Oh, I have no criticisms of Nigel Farage as a politician. He's been doing it for decades, very successful. But Reform UK are not the party we need today. Reform are basically a much better version of the Tories. Reform of what we needed 30 years ago. If we had Reform 30 years ago, we may not be in the mess we're in now. But they're not what we need today. They're out of date. And we need something to tackle the problems we've got today. Who's got a vision for what we need to do today, tomorrow, over the next decade. Reform are still fighting the old battles of the 80s and the 90s and Blairism, and we're past that now. Plus, Reform UK is actually a dictatorship. It's a one-man party. It's a one-man show. A very excellent man, by the way. But it's how can you say democracy when you don't practice democracy? How can you say you represent the people when you don't listen to the people? It was only 6 months ago Reform was saying, we're not deporting illegal immigrants. It can't be done. I'm telling you, it can't be done. And then they saw what the public wanted, and now we're going to deport all illegal immigrants. They're telling us what we want to hear, just like Labour do, just like the Tories do. They're constantly listening to opinion polls and changing their policies to appease us. We've had this for 30, 40 years. It doesn't work. Because the second they get into power, they're going to realise, oh, we're not doing any of that. We just know you're going to believe us because you're idiots. And you've shown us over 30, 40 years, you're idiots. And we're just using the same playbook. That's my big fear of Reform, that they're not the party we need today. I think Advance will become the party we need today. Advance are only 4 months old and already got 40,000 members. Yeah. It took Reform UK several years to get anywhere near 40,000. We've done it in 4 months. And that's because the Advance UK really are open to everybody. It's open. If you're a British citizen and you love this country and you want the best for this country, that's the party for you. If you've got particular issues and you want things to improve in your lifetime and you want, lower taxes tomorrow, if you want things like that about you as a voter, then the other parties may give you something you want. What Advance UK is saying, we're going to create a better country, and the beneficiaries of that better country will be your children and your grandchildren, because we're not going to fix this part. We're not going to fix this country in a 5-year term, or a 10-year term, or a 15-year term. This is a 2-decade project to undo all the wrongs that have been done. Things will get better throughout that time. But if you're voting for a party because you want lower taxes on this particular thing because it benefits you, then you're not a patriot. We need to start voting for political parties that are going to improve the country for everybody, for the future. This short-termism, where all we care about is what we're going to get tomorrow and the next week, that means we end up doing the things that damage the country in the long term, but give us a little bit of something today. And it's a completely wrong strategy. Hence why I like Advance UK. Plus, the plethora of people involved. It isn't a one-man show. Ben has set this charity and set this political party up where the college, which is their board, I'm a member of their board now, the college.
Yeah.
That means if we think Ben's going down the wrong path, we can sack Ben.
Oh, really?
So Ben, they've set the party up and put hundreds of thousands of pounds in it and spent all this time doing it. But if the college thinks he's going down the wrong path, we can vote him out.
So that's democratized it already from that one. Of course it is. Say one, but early on. That's interesting.
Yeah. No one can get rid of Nigel Farage. The only person who can get rid of Nigel Farage out of Reform UK is Nigel Farage. And if Nigel died tomorrow, and I hope he doesn't, but if he died tomorrow, Reform UK would collapse within 6 months because it's a one-man show. It's a one-trick pony with an amazing politician. We don't need that anymore now. We need sensible, hard-working patriots who are going to dedicate their lives improving and fixing this country.
That is a hell of a plug for anyone. Actually, you should sell something with that sort of rhetoric to it. Speaking of Nigel dying, no one wants Nigel Farage dead on this channel anyway. I was having a conversation with someone recently. I'm not going to say who it was because I don't name drop off camera. If they're not going to come on camera, I'm not going to name drop people. As simple as that. We had this sort of in-depth conversation about reform and things like that. Now, we've seen the politicization of language. So people like Starmer, for example, I think they removed the funding for Nigel's private security or whatever it is. And they've used terms like Nazi and far right and things like that. Now, I seem to recall, follow me on this trope a little bit. I seem to recall, God, it must have been a while back, because I think you were still part of Reform. Nigel said something along the lines of, I wouldn't mind being Prime Minister, but maybe hand it off to someone younger. Now, if Nigel was to be bumped off in some way because of, well, we saw what happened with Charlie Kirk, God rest it. Do you think Zia Youssef would be a PM for the country if Nigel was not unable or dead to lead the party?
I've no idea. And again, this is why I said a minute ago, this is one of the flaws with Reform UK. They have a one-trick pony. It's the Nigel show. What happens when there is no Nigel? You know, what would happen to Thatcherism if there was no Thatcher? It just wouldn't exist. I've not got a problem with Youssef. He's a very articulate, very clever man. I have no idea if he would be a good politician, a good MP, or a good Prime Minister. But Nigel is in mortal danger. Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson. It wouldn't surprise me if one of them are killed over the next year or two.
Tommy's part of Advance, though, isn't he? And I think that galvanized a lot. I don't have access to your member base or numbers or figures. I go by what Ben said and now what you said of your numbers. I think by the publicization that Tommy came on board to Advance, he's been quite vocal about it. Well, it was until today. He's been in court again today, I think. Yeah. I think that galvanized a lot of people to like follow Tommy. And again, I had this conversation. I want to get your view on this because obviously you must have had an interaction with Tommy because he's part of Advance. Sorry, someone once said to me recently, Tommy Robinson is like Mandela. I sat there, I was like, I'm not drunk enough for this. Please elaborate this statement. So Tommy Robinson's a political prisoner. He's been put in prison for having the wrong opinions. They've called him far right. They've also slammed him as terrorist. I'm not saying that Mandela was far right, but all of these tropes. And he's come out like Teflon, nothing sticking to him. And I think an American, one of the American presidents once said about if you don't want power, you're the perfect person to have power. Can you see Tommy Robinson being PM?
No, I can see Tommy Robinson potentially being an MP at some point. Tommy Robinson has gone through huge changes. 15, 20 years ago, he was Hitler. That's how everybody looked upon Tony Robinson, because there was
True.
no social media, no platforms for him ever to express what he said or what he wanted. It was easy to use him as the boogeyman to scare everybody else that if you don't vote for me, the Nazis are coming. The Nazis are coming. Tony Robinson, as time goes on, he's becoming Teflon. He's becoming whiter than white. Everything he's predicted, everything he talks about is now in the mainstream. He's being seen to be proven right on almost everything. Now, as an individual, he's flawed, because we're all flawed individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say to people all the time, you're a fool if you reject someone's message because you don't like the messenger. You should understand the message and validate the message based on the message, not because who tells you the message. But Tommy's becoming more and more acceptable. He's got a part to play in the movement of fixing the country. And I was very happy he joins that Advance, allowed him to join Advance UK, because there's hardly any parties out there who proclaim to be democratic, but then say, we're democratic, we speak for the people, want everybody to join, except for you lot. Except for you people who we don't like, you're never joining our party. Yeah. How's that a democracy? How can you then say you're representing people when you're specifically saying we've got a list here? We've got a list of the people we don't want to join. Now, there may be lists people will have. So, this is a different discussion, but let's just say that somebody is a prolific paedophile. Do you want them joining your party and having a say in your party? It gets complicated, but Tommy Robinson isn't like that. Tommy Robinson has been proven to be correct on virtually everything he's been talking about for 15 years. And I'm glad that Advance UK are open to every British citizen who's entitled to vote. You can join this party and have a say. Doesn't mean we're going to do what you want us to do. Doesn't mean they're going to do what I want them to do. It just means that's a democratic process where we're going to start looking at policies and voting policies in. And the party will go where the majority of people want the party to go. And what's good about that is that's a proven tactic and a proven excellent strategy. Because when you ever go on a game show, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when you don't know the answer, it's always sensible to ask the audience. Why? Because when you put more heads together, you're more likely to get the right answer. And that's what Advance UK are trying to do. Trying to get more people together to get the right answer to how we fix this country.
Okay, so on that topic, on that point, I'll Harry Potter a magic wand. Advance are in tomorrow. First thing's going to happen. What's it going to be, Nick?
Whoever gets in to fix this country, they have to tackle mass immigration. That's the number one issue. Because mass immigration has caused nearly all our other problems. And the ones it hasn't caused, it's made a lot worse. Why? Here's some examples. We don't have a housing crisis in the UK. We have a migration crisis. If we stopped importing 1 million people a year, what's what I'm looking for? The people of these islands are not breeding at replacement rate. So we should have a housing surplus, but we don't, because we keep importing millions of people. NHS isn't working. Why is it not working? Because it's being overused, because we've got millions and millions more people coming in. Nice. Plus, we've got more and more migrants working in the NHS. We've got more foreigners working in the NHS who don't have the same level of skill and qualifications. So many nurses now from Nigeria don't even have nursing qualifications. They bought them on the black market. 6% of all doctors in the NHS who sexually abuse patients are foreign doctors. So we're bringing all these problems to ourselves. Knife crime is an imported problem. We've had knife crime in this country with the rockers and the teddy boys, but through my lifetime, knife crime had ended until mass immigration, and now we're attacking people on the street with machetes. That doesn't tell you this is an imported problem from Africa. Well, they're using machetes. You look at all the problems, the grooming gang scandal, 50, 60 years of mass raping poor white girls. Yeah. All our virtually all our problems are caused by mass immigration. If we can end that, then life will get easier. then we can start investing in this country. Again, we need to stop foreign aid. We need to stop investing in other countries. We've just promised today how many million we're going to give Gaza. We're investing farmers in Rwanda and Brazil.
But shut down our own.
Yeah, it's at the same time as shutting ours. Our government there is a great example of these crazy schemes we fund. We funded a lesbian opera company in Beijing.
Isn't that part of the world not a fan of LGBT?
I don't care. They are or they're not my problem. That's a Chinese problem. But why are we funding a lesbian opera company in Beijing? Why are we just funded? A woman you need to follow is, I forgot her name now, but she's on X. She looks at what we're funding. She's great.
Is that Charlotte Gill?
Charlotte Gill. That's it. I'm glad you've said the name. She's great. The thing she uncovers, we've just funded somebody. We've just funded a European person. It's not even British. A European person who lives in Europe. We've just funded them so many hundred thousands of pounds to write a report on how homosexual pornography has changed over the last 50 years. It's like, who cares? And we're funding so many £100,000 on this project to work out this. And it's just...
And that's government funds?
Government funds through university that we're funding through taxpayers' money. So not only do we have to end mass immigration, we need to get a grip on the way we keep giving our money away.
Yeah, it seems a bit odd to me. I mean, I'm not quite 40 yet, but I've definitely seen changes as I've got older. And I remember being taught, like, we live in a democracy, the people decide. But when I came of voting age, I was like, all I'm really doing is voting for the guy who's allegedly in charge. I don't get to vote on, are we going to bomb Iraq? Or are we going to join the Americans? I don't get to vote on, are we going to support Gaza or support Israel or Ukraine or anything like that? And I had to think, like, having this moment of, like, it's not really, it's a democratic process to pick a figurehead. But anything of any relevance, they will not allow the people to make that decision. And I wonder if that's a Brexit thing, because then everyone voted Brexit and they're like, you sure you don't want to vote again? And it's, to me, that democratic process is completely broken.
Yeah, I mean, to have true democracy really is, you do what the majority wants you to do. Now, that in itself can bring tyranny. It can bring tyranny of the majority over the minority. Hence why every democracy has safeguards and checks and balances and things like that. So in our country, we have a monarch who's head of state, and we have a parliamentary democracy where we vote in our representative. There is room for us. Switzerland do it every year. Switzerland have a referendum on one or two important things, and the government then will enact that, just like we did with Brexit.
Yeah.
But since Brexit, no government since Brexit wants to ask the British people their opinion, because the British people always have the wrong opinion. So therefore, they don't want to ask us. A good example is mass immigration.
Can't ask the plebs, come on.
Yeah, so I mean, so you'd say mass immigration started in 1948 with the Windrush boats landing. By 1950, by 2 years later, by that point, there was only a couple of thousands, migrants in the country within 2 years then. But by 1950, the Labour government had to set up a special cabinet committee and report to look into immigration from the Commonwealth. Why? Because within 2 years of Windrush landing and the other boats coming, the British people were saying, we don't want this. That was 1950. We knew this in 1950, that the British people didn't want any immigration. But every year we got more and more and more. Every year that we could vote on someone saying we didn't want it, we voted for them and got more and more and more and more. And it just continues. They were forced against the Brexit vote because of UKIP, because of the Nigel Farage. And the only reason they gave that referendum to us is because 2 years before they won the Scottish referendum, and they thought they knew how to win a referendum, but they didn't. We got Brexit, well, we got Brexit in name only. Brexit is an idea sat on a shelf in 10 Downing Street. And eventually we'll get a prime minister who goes, I'm taking that down and I'm going to use all the benefits that's on that shelf. Because we've got no benefits of Brexit at the moment. It's been not a waste of time because we've left the European Union, but we've had no benefits because no prime minister wants the benefits out of Brexit.
See, it's funny, when I was growing up, see, my parents are of an older generation for someone of my age. And I was told that when the vote to join the bloc was put to the people, it was for trade.
Yeah.
And my parents ran through it, and I was like, actually, that sounds really good. And then you fast forward to me being in, I think I must have been high school, sixth form, maybe just after, and they're dictating the shape of your banana and the power of your vacuum cleaner. Like, you are. That's her. Now, speaking on the mass immigration thing, I was born in Hull, which is, you know what, to those people from Hull who see this, it's a deprived area. Let's just call a spade a spade. It's not a shovel. And there was a lot of people from the northeast of England who voted for Brexit. They genuinely felt they were losing jobs because of European migration. But it seems like what the politicians did were like, oh, here's the immigration window. You don't want this anymore. Okay, cool. So we'll widen it and move it to sub-Saharan Africa instead. That's all they did. They just moved the window of immigration. Where do you stand on that? Because at least with the European immigration, very similar culturally. Christianity's a big part of Europe, you know, and now we're bringing people in, or the government are bringing people in from, forgive me for using the term, but I can't think of anything else, but it's almost very alien, comparatively to West culture. So should we have just kept the European migration instead, do you reckon?
No. Just because the people in charge ruined the country, it doesn't mean what the people wanted was actually wrong in the first place. The people voted for Brexit for many reasons. One was to control migration and to end migration. Of course it was. But a large part of it was to reclaim the country. It was to say, this is England, this is the UK. We want our laws here to be made in Parliament, because we can change the people in Parliament and we can get different laws. We want our government concentrating on improving this country, not improving the whole of Europe or the whole of the world. We want our taxes spent on us, not funding Eastern Europe, not funding the Middle East and Africa. It was all about claiming responsibility, claiming power back to this island. That's why people voted for Brexit. It wasn't to be richer. I never met anybody who says, if we can leave Europe, we're going to be richer. A lot of them said we'll be happier and we'll have more control. And that's what we don't have. We still don't have control. And we're even more unhappy now than we were a decade ago when we were debating, should we stay in Europe or not? But what happened so after COVID, there was Eastern Europe had been doing better and better. Poland now is projecting to overtake the money of the UK, and so Poland's doing really well. So lots of Europeans all went back home because who wants to be in the UK now? They've got what they wanted out of the UK, which was money, experience, stuff like that. They're going back on. I don't blame them. That's why people come here, to take advantage of us. They don't come here because they want to be English or want to be British or they love this country. They come here for the same reason why my dad came here. They came here for personal benefit, and then they go home. So, but then Boris Johnson, after COVID, and our economy was collapsing, he just wanted a big influx of people to make the economy kickstart, and he took them from anywhere. The people of this country, if you gave them the vote, we could end mass migration and you'll be poorer, or we'll keep mass migration and you'll be slightly richer. The vast majority in the country will vote to be poorer, because what's the point of being richer when your life's a mess, you're unhappy, crime's out of control, you can't afford to buy a house, It looks like your country's dying. You don't recognize anyone. You feel like a stranger in your hometown. Money, but that's what the Tories always make a mistake. The Tories always think we always care about money, number one. We don't.
No, but it's that age-old trope. I've had a lengthy career in healthcare, nursing, and support, and I've known people turn down promotions because I just don't want the stress. The money's not worth. I'm happy earning what I'm earning and doing what I'm doing, and I can understand that. You don't want to be at that level because like it's comparative, isn't it? It's just on a country scale. So I've seen things change over the past 30 years. As I say, I'm 40 next year. So when I was growing up, when I was a pre-teen, and then even as a teenager, all the way up to say September the 11th, let's use that as like the yardstick. Knife crime was pretty minimal, like something of movies. Hell, even 9/11, that's sort of something you'd expect to see in a Schwarzenegger movie. And I'm pretty sure he does something similar in True Lies, actually. But why have we allowed the demographic change to, I don't want to use the term water down because that's not correct, but change the culture of the country? Because now the culture is very similar to, as you said earlier, like the knife crime culture is very similar to other parts of the world. Why have we allowed this to sort of foster, do you think? Why have the politicians done it?
Lazy and personal convenience. So because our politicians over 30 years can't grow the economy, can't improve the economy, and that's because we're attached to the EU, we're attached to multinational, multi-regional deals and all these things we've signed up to, and we're turning into a socialist state, because they can kickstart the economy and have it like it used to be 100 years ago when we led the world. The only other way to improve the economy is to import more people. Import more people who work cheaper, work longer hours, and the fact that they're here means they spend their money here. So it looks like you're growing the economy, but you're not growing the economy per person. You're growing the economy because you're increasing how many people are here. And then the government can report then, oh, look, we've grown the economy, 1.4%. Well, you haven't increased my wealth.
That's just cooking the books.
And that's what, it's all short-termism. It's cooking the books all the time. So governments can say, look, what we're doing well. And most of it is going into debt. So we're getting more and more debt. But at the election, a government can say, look what we're doing. But you only can go into debt for so long. And we're almost at the limit now. We're almost at the limit of going bankrupt. We can't afford welfare anymore. So rather than tackle people on long-term benefits, the government has always gone, that's fine. You stay on benefits and keep your mouth shut, and we'll import more and more Africans and Asians to do all those jobs. So it's easier for us. We're going into debt, but it's easier for us as the political party, as the government. All our problems, if we're going to fix this country, are complicated and it's going to be painful. But none of our politicians have got a backbone to do what needs to be done. They're always thinking in a 2, 3, 4 year cycle. What can I do today to get credit that helps me get elected in 3 years' time? I don't care where we are 30 years from now, because I won't be a politician. If I spend my career now improving the country, someone 30 years from now will take credit for it. I need credit in 3 years. We can't solve any of our problems in 3 years. So they spend all their time and money looking like they're solving problems in 3 years, but they're sticking plasters. They're not solved. They're putting us in debt, and the problem is still there. And it's this cycle all the time of short-termism, where instead of career politicians, what we need are statespeople. We need statesmen and stateswomen, people who go, I'm going to dedicate my career, and it might only last 4 years. I'll get voted out again. But if I leave the country in a better position than when I found it, I did my job. And if I've got to sacrifice my political career by doing that, so be it, because I'm here to improve my country. I'm not here to improve my career. And career politicians are killing this country.
It does seem like that, actually. So speaking of politicians, as we're on the subject at the moment, what's your opinion of Keir Starmer? He's currently our Prime Minister. I think he's the most unpopular as it stands. Trump's just brokered peace in the Middle East. I'm sure people are screaming that Palestine is now free and they just don't like who freed it. What's your opinion of Starmer and Labour?
I knew Starmer and Labour were going to be poor, and I wanted them to be poor, and I wanted them to win the general election. And I wanted them to win the general election because we're not going to change until we hit rock bottom. Tories are taking us to rock bottom over 14 years, but they're doing it slowly. I knew Labour would do it in one term. Even I was surprised how bad they were, how quickly they're doing it. You know, I thought it'd take them 4 years. I didn't know it'd take them a year. They've exceeded my expectations of their incompetence. Keir Starmer isn't a leader. He's a bureaucrat. He's a middle manager. Keir Starmer was placed as the leader of the opposition as Labour, knowing they're going to win the next election. But the shadowy characters wanted him in power because he's a middle manager. He does as he's told. He implements the plans that are put in front of him. He's not a Tony Blair. He doesn't have his own original thoughts. He's not even a Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, I think, is a statesman. I disagree with him on everything, and I would never vote for him. But my God, I know where he stands on everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, he tells you his vision. He tells you what he wants to do. We don't want it, but at least he tells you, and he's adding on what he wants, and he believes in something. Everyone else doesn't believe in anything. They only believe in what's good for them and getting elected again. So Labour's been atrocious. They're not going to last another 4 years. I'll be amazed if they're still there at the end of next year. I think they're going to get such a beating in the May election that Starmer will be gone. Somebody else will come in. It's like, who are they going to bring in? Look at the front bench. Who are they bringing in? Is it going to be David Lammy?
Yeah, I did say that to someone recently.
Yeah.
How funny would that be? Because they've given him all the other jobs recently. As my kids one day were looking at a history book and David Lammy was this and David Lammy was that. And then I'll just say to them, YouTube David Lammy on Mastermind.
Yeah.
And I'll just sit back and watch my kids laugh. Because how this guy has got to these positions, I've no idea.
Yeah. I can't remember the questions exactly, but the two questions he got asked was, can you name a famous blue cheese? And he went Red Leicester. And the other question was, who came after Henry VIII? And he went Henry VII. I mean, that's how bad his answers were. They were, you know, they were just horrendous answers to show how stupid he is. But who's going to play Starmer? It doesn't matter. Labour are going through what the Tories went through. They're out of touch. They don't believe in anything anymore now. The public have lost faith in the Uni Party. The public want completely different things now. Labour, like the Tories, is also a broad church. It's got different factions inside. Mm-hmm. They're trying to balance the far left. They're trying to balance the Jew haters, the woke idiots, the Green lobby, the Muslim bloc vote. They're losing now. They're trying to, the white working class, they've lost them. Yeah. They're trying to balance all these people and they can't, and they're losing them. They're unpopular. They're going to get a hammering in May at the local elections. They're going to lose the Welsh Assembly, and I'm not sure what's going to happen in Scotland. A bit more complicated in Scotland with the SNP.
Yeah, no, I can see that coming. I think there's no simple answers for the absolute mess that they've created. I think things like not funding net zero maybe, or waiting until we've got the technology to implement it. You know, invest research, not force it on everyone. Pouring the concrete down the coal mines has just said, well, people might change their minds. Not now. Well, that's not helpful at all. And I think, given my experience of it, things like DEI in the health service, that stuff is overfunded and rampant. Basically turn up, oh, you're a white staff member. Well, you're evil then. Sorry, I just here to help people. I think just to use the term defunding, take that money out of there, you're going to solve a lot of problems because you could use that money elsewhere. These little projects like that, and like you say, operas across the world that don't need to be funded by us. I think we could do a lot of good things if we just stop funding these tacky little things. And it makes you wonder. I think Ed Miliband is definitely a zealot for net zero. I think he genuinely worships a windmill, like normal people would worship a cross.
So everything he said then was common sense, but Labour can't do it because the government would collapse if they tried. Because they're dependent upon, the woke crazies, the eco-lunatics in their party. Labour tried to reduce the amount spent on social welfare. Not what we spend on social welfare. They tried to reduce how much it's going to increase. So just the increase every year, but the bit that increases, they tried to reduce that a bit. And the government nearly fell, and they had to backtrack. And they had to backtrack on the winter fuel allowance. This government is not in control. This government knows it might have a 350-seat majority, but it's extremely weak. All the backbenchers know it's weak. All the backbenchers also know they're not winning the next election. So what they're doing now, all the backbenchers now need to virtue signal to their base that I'm sticking up for you, knowing they're not going to win the next election, but it's the only way they may win their seat. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors here but our Prime Minister is not in charge of the country. He hasn't since day one.
No, I don't think he has. So, as you're part of Advance, what would Advance UK do about net zero, for example? Are they going to keep that implemented? Are they going to keep forcing people to have it? Or is there a policy in place for it? Just as it's something we've just touched.
Yeah. No policy in place at the moment because we're writing policies at the moment, and those policies then will be voted in by the members. But I'm 99.99999% guarantee that Advance UK will be will not be a net zero supporting party. We'll be, I would imagine we'll be looking at giving out drilling licenses for the North Sea, drilling for shale gas in the north of England.
We drill.
And that's what we need to do. But there is no policy at the moment, but that's what we'll definitely be looking at.
Okay. Is there a policy for DEI?
Again, no policies at the moment. That we're looking at developing them now, but I'm 100% sure on this one. We will be an anti-DEI party. But to be fair, a lot of the parties will be going down this path in the next 5 years as well, because DEI is dead. It brings incompetence. It brings waste. It brings far too much overspending. We need to get back to the days where we recruited people on merit, not on sex, not on gender, not on religion, not on anything apart from, are you the best person for the job? If you are, you get the job.
Yeah. I was always a fan of, when I worked in recruitment many moons ago, I would ask the HR department to block out the names. I don't want to see the names. I'll just I'll number the CVs 1 to 5 or whatever, and I'll pick a couple of CVs from there, because this was before all the DEI came in, but I never wanted anyone to say, well, you've only done that because, and it does seem like DEI has watered down the talent base quite a lot, actually. I'm not saying people from minority backgrounds can't do certain jobs. That's crap. Of course they can. But there are certain jobs that they've only got in on over the past few years because of immutable characteristics.
No, it's absolutely.
Sport. It really is. I mean, I've seen someone of an African background, and I'm not going to say which hospital, and I'm not going to say what, but I'll say attack a white patient. I know it because I had to pull him off him. Now, if I'd have done that, and it was the other way around, I would have been fired out of a cannon at the sun. This guy got moved to an office job for 6 months, then a different hospital ward. You can't tell me that's not two-tier.
Yeah. But we know this. All our public sectors run on a two-tier system. We see it with the police all the time. We see it in the criminal justice system. It was only last year or 2 years ago, we had the Royal Air Force got leaked that they were rejecting white male applicants to be pilots.
White men or something.
Yeah. Merseyside police were sued by rejecting white applicants when they were recruiting police officers. The BBC They've got internships. The only people who can't apply are white people.
I saw.
We're seeing it all the time, and it's more than DEI now. It's turned into anti-white prejudice. That's what it's turned into.
Yeah, no, I must admit I have seen a lot more of that as things have gone on.
Mm.
So with regards to where does Advance, I'm not using you as the spokesman for Advance, but obviously you're part of that party, so I want to pick your brains a little bit. Where would, or where does, if you know, Advance UK stand on things like free speech? Because obviously you've got the Ricky Jones, Lucy Connolly situation, which was abhorrent, really. Everyone writes stupid stuff when they're pissed. You know, so being put in prison for a tweet, yes, it was ill-advised. Yes, it was pretty bad. But she thought upon it. She walked the dog. She deleted it. I don't think she should have gone to prison. Whereas I do think Ricky Jones should have had a bit more of a slap on the wrist. Where does Advance UK stand on things like? Because that free speech is like walking on glacial eggshells, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so Advance UK have got 5 pillars, and one of those pillars is one law for everybody. So complete free speech, no two-tier system, and we all get treated the same because we're one people with one law in one country. So that's already been discussed there. With the Connolly woman, I don't think her tweet was that bad. She basically said something like, burn down the hotels if I care. She didn't tell them to burn down the hotels. She just says, I don't care if you do.
Yeah, it's not what I would call incitement.
No, it wasn't incitement. I don't even think Ricky Jones was incitement. Slit their throats, let's slit their throats.
That's what kind of doing this.
Yeah, but again, that's, for me, that wasn't incitement. He had no intentions of people doing that. But people jumped on him because he was a Labour councillor. I get that. And it's not a nice thing to do as a Labour councillor, but he wasn't purposely trying to incite people to violence. I think the level you need to reach for incitement for violence, I think needs to be raised. It needs to be a lot higher, because saying, oh, that's incitement to violence. No, it's not. But no, we're definitely a free speech party, just like every party tells you they're a free speech party. But the proof's in the pudding. But we're adamant. We want one law in this country for everybody, not a two-tier system, not Sharia courts, not all your things that are going on. One law for one people in one country.
Yeah, it does seem like, as well as we bring people over, we're bringing over their laws as well. It seems that's a bit odd. I read something last week, I think it might have been a couple of days ago. I had to sleep since then. And it was essentially that there's more Sharia courts in the UK operating than we're actually aware of. And there was this big investigation about it. And I feel bad for the women, because traditionally, and then this isn't a stereotype, but if you're married in Sharia, you're not technically married under British law. So when there's a divorce, kind of stuffed yourself. It's interesting and scary times, I think.
Yeah, but it's so much more than Sharia law. Let's look at circumcision. Started with, we're looking at the Jews, we're looking at the Muslims. We allow them to mutilate baby boys. We allow it. We celebrate it. We allow them to have parties that they've just mutilated the baby boy. And then we look at female genital mutilation. I think there's only been 5 prosecutions in the 20, 30 years it's been illegal. Something like 2% of the population of the UK has had their email.
Are you against circumcision then?
Yes. It's child abuse. It's either child abuse, or you need to convince me it's not child abuse. You've in this country, it's illegal to cut a dog's tail off, but it's okay to cut part of the penis off a little baby. So we need to look at all these things. What we've done in this country over hundreds of years is we allowed different immigrant groups to come here. And because we're tolerant, we went, oh, you can carry on doing that. You can carry on doing that. And it slowly led to where we are now. I remember in the 1970s, we had motorbike accidents, people killing themselves on motorbikes and brain damage. So we forced everybody to wear helmets, apart from Sikhs. And today, Sikhs don't have to wear helmets. Sikhs don't have to wear helmets, hard hats, working on building sites. So we gave them exemptions. We then passed animal cruelty laws in slaughterhouses, but we made exemptions for halal and kosher. We keep making exemptions for people who come to this country, and it needs to stop. We need to say, this is our country with our laws. You want to come here, you follow our laws. We're not making exceptions. We're not making religious exceptions for your traditions. If you want halal meat, you need to go where you came from. If you want to mutilate your baby boy, go back to where you come from, where it's acceptable. It doesn't happen here. We need a tougher line, because our tolerance has led to us tolerating people who are intolerant of us.
No, I get that. Actually, it's an interesting point you raise about the circumcision. I know that some people need it for medical reasons, or
absolutely fine.
I understand that.
I don't think you should cut your legs off for fashion. But if you wake up one day and you've got a gangrene in your leg, then
you'll be different.
Then chop it off. It's different when it's for medical reasons.
No, I get that. I remember being in part of the health service, and again, I'm not going to name drop or say anything like that. I don't want to be sued. But I was in a training session, and they were talking about FGM,
mm-hmm.
and I said, "Okay, but we're trying to be multicultural and multi-ethnic, and as much as we disagree, this is part of their culture, and we accept what I call MGM." And they were like, "Well, what's that?" And I was like, "Well, male genital mutilation. Like, why is it?" And in my mind, I don't agree with either. Just for the record, I mean, if it's your cultural practice to chop your skin off, at least let the kid get a bit older and make their own mind up. Like, I wouldn't force a child to be baptized, for example. I'd let them make their own mind up as they get older. But that's me. And I said in this training course, I said, okay, we're all in agreement that female genital mutilation is abhorrent, shouldn't happen, and so on. Yeah, okay. I was like, why do we accept it when it comes to men? And it was almost like, do you remember the blue screen of death on a computer? Like, behind the eyes, it was like, does not compute. Does not compute. Like, and it was flashing. And then all of a sudden it was like, the daggers, like the eye daggers come out for me. And he was like, well, you're wrong, and this is why. And I was just like, you know what, fine, you have a question. Like, in the back of my mind, I was like, I still don't see why it's acceptable.
Two-tier system. Two-tier system that it's wrong when it's a girl, it's okay when it's a boy. And that's because we value men and boys a lot less in our culture, for many, many different reasons. But I can understand people saying, if male genital mutilation is okay, then the argument is, well, it's okay for females then as well, isn't it? So it's either one or the other.
It's a bizarre equality for the sexes. So it's...
Yeah. But for me, it's simple. It's plain. It's child abuse.
Yeah. No, it's child. Really see how I don't see the benefits of it. For me, it's sort of like, if you weren't meant to have it, you wouldn't have it, would you? Like, you haven't got an extra finger that you're going to go cut off. Yeah. But that's me. So, God, we've gone on quite a journey on this podcast, haven't we? So I just finally then, I can see your iconography behind you. It's quite an impressive collection there. Where do you stand on England being a Christian nation?
It is I mean, I'm not living.
Usually, given we've got a female bishop for the C of E now.
Yeah. I also think she's a lesbian as well, isn't she?
I did not look that far into it.
Yeah, but yeah, she's a female lesbian. I'm not religious, but I can see the benefits that this island being a Christian nation has delivered. It's the foundation everything else was built upon 1,000 years ago. We have a Christian country. We have to remain a Christian country. And in fact, we need more Christians in this country. We need more people here converted to Christianity. I don't think I'll be one of them. I can't get my head round at all. But I see the benefits of having Christianity, having any religion to a certain extent. It gives you guidance. It solves some of your problems for you. It stops you having to think about stuff because there's a rule book there that you follow. those rules have been decided over thousands, or at least hundreds of years by people cleverer than us. That's what the Ten Commandments are. The Ten Commandments are basically thousands of years of clever people getting together and trying to work out the core nucleus of what we need to do. So absolutely, we are a Christian country, and even though I'm not religious, I'm swimming in a Christian bowl, because all our culture, our norms, our history, all comes from Christianity, and I'm proud of that. Maybe if I was raised religious, maybe I would be a Christian now, but I wasn't. And then the question then is, if we're not going to be Christian, what are we going to be? Is there a better religion out there? Should it be Islam? Well, the quick answer to that is, look at the countries that have the religion you're thinking of adopting. Let's look at Islam countries. Let's look at countries that have Hinduism. And you look at all those countries and you go, they're shitholes, aren't they? So why do I want to import the religion of a shithole? And then maybe it's atheism. But a big part of our problem in this country, why we've got an epidemic of pornography and drugs and this and that, is because when we removed God out of the UK, we just left a vacuum, we left a hole, we didn't fill it with anything.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah, and we're a tribal creature. We need to belong to something, and the church and Christianity was something important to belong to. You may have went to church and not even believed in God, but you went to church because that connected you with your family, your community, and it pulled everyone together. Even if most people who went to church, most religious leaders don't believe in God, because if they did, they wouldn't do the terrible things they do. So it's not even like you have to believe in God to be a bishop, because most of them don't believe in it anyway. But the Church of England is dying. It's been a mess for decades and decades. And we've now just appointed a female lesbian Archbishop of Canterbury. It is Canterbury, isn't it?
Yeah, Archbishop of Canterbury. Yeah, on that point though, we have seen a resurgence in Catholicism. It's like the muscular Christianity at the moment, I think. The C of E is sort of dying off, as is Protestantism.
Yeah.
But yeah, Catholicism seeing a rise slowly. But I think, and I've had this discussion before, when you look at the Abrahamic religions, you've got Judaism, Islam, and Catholicism in my understanding, and everything else from those is almost like a bastardization of each. Because you look at Christianity as the example, and I'm not slaying anyone's religion. This is just sort of my analytical mind at it. So you've got, think of it like a structure you'd have in a business. You've got like Catholicism at the top, and then you've got C of E, then Protestantism, and then they branch off into others, and before you know it, you've got a guy on TV yelling at you that you need to send him money.
Yeah.
Or God will know. George Carlin did a famous bit on God. I can't remember the joke off the top of my head. It was just something along the lines of, he loves you, but if you do something wrong, he's going to torture you forever. And he needs money. I always found that very funny. But as George Carlin is my favourite stand-up, I think. Him and Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
So, on that point, not on that point, just to wrap up, your keynote would be Vote Advance UK when the opportunity arises. Is that right?
That's too simplistic, and we need to start treating people with a little, thinking they've got a bit more intelligence about them. What I'm saying to people is work out what you want. What is it you want? Do you want a new car? Is that what you really, really want? So if you want a new car, admit it to yourself. Save some money, buy a car, and shut up moaning about the state of the country if all you want a new car. But if you love this country, if you love this island, if you love everything that's given to you, if you love your children and you want them to have a better life than what you've had, then you need to start thinking intelligently. You need to start thinking about the future. You need to start working out, how are we going to get what we need? How are you going to contribute to a better country? Have those conversations in your head. Because if you're just waiting for another political party to turn up and offer you the world, then you're making the same mistakes we've been making for 40 years. It's easy for charlatans to promise you the world and tell you what you want to hear, and you'll fall for it. just like the 4 decades of idiots who fell for it. So stop thinking a messiah is going to come along and offer you everything you want and solve all your problems. They're not. You're going to have to get involved. You're going to have to do some of the hard work, some of the heavy lifting. You're going to have to take some of the personal responsibility. And it starts by checking out the parties. Who are the parties that are on offer? What do they stand for? Read their websites. Check out what you want. Who supports them? What are their policies? You need to start doing that, because if you don't do that, you're uninformed and you're primed to be manipulated by someone who's a much better talker and thinker than you. So that's the first step, is be a better citizen, be informed, work out what you want, take responsibility for you, your family, your neighbourhood, and start working out how are you going to contribute to a better tomorrow. That's the first step everybody needs to make.
That is a fantastic place to finish. Nick Buckley, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.